What exactly does comic accuracy even mean? Who determines what is comic accurate? There are endless reboots and retcons. You can cherry pick any version you want, and that's exactly what comic nerds do. Ever since superhero movies entered the zeitgeist, they've amassed a cult-like following. And for the most part, it's just passionate fans showing their enthusiasm for characters they love. They want adaptations to be faithful to the source material. If you fight for the artistic integrity of the creator of an IP, that's actually noble. But unfortunately, where there's passion, there's also obsession. This genre is infected with emotionally stunted man-babies. People who seek to gatekeep what is or isn't accurate to the lore. They are petulant princes, mommy's favorite little boys. Mama. But unlike most books where there's only one continuity, like The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, comic continuity is all over the place. The irony here is that the superhero movies that paved the way for the success of this genre took a lot of creative liberties. These movies prioritized a cool factor, or what we now call aura. And this resonated with the general audience. So the question isn't whether or not comic accuracy matters. It's whether the hypocrisy of comic nerds is destroying superhero movies. Because when studios chase down these contradictory demands, we don't get accuracy. What we get are messy, tonally inconsistent slop. So let's talk about it. It's very silly hearing fans scream about comic accuracy. They don't even agree on what that means. Are Elseworlds comic accurate? Are retcons comic accurate? Comic fans can't even agree on the idea, but try to enforce it. Let me give you an example. DC fans were crying on Twitter about the lack of vibrant colors from Zack Snyder's take of the New Gods. In Jack Kirby's work, the New Gods were depicted with bright colors. However, in the many years since then, it has been depicted with darker and more muted colors, whether it's video games or animation or even live action. Similarly, Batman was first depicted as an anti-hero who used guns and killed people. But since then, he's developed a no-kill rule and hates guns. This right here is the hypocrisy. DC fans want a return to the OG version of the New Gods. They are using artistic integrity and having respect for Jack Kirby as the reason. But if Batman kills or uses a gun, it's somehow not showing respect for the original depiction of Batman. Funny how that works. They pick and choose when they care about comic accuracy. Hell, they pick and choose what the definition of comic accuracy is. And it all depends on whether or not they like you. Because James Gunn's Superman makes fundamental changes to Superman's lore, but they've been conveniently quiet on that. So whatever nerds say isn't comic accurate simply means it's not part of my headcanon. Unfortunately, studios listen to the loudest voices online, and now it's backfiring. The narrative around this genre is pretty much controlled by comic influencers and grifters. All of a sudden, there has been this push for comic accurate suits and designs in superhero movies. This has led to some of the worst suits and VFX designs I've seen in a while. Not everything translates well into live action. The Flash is the best example. In the comics, the lines look good on his suit, but in the movie, it looked stupid. Superman 2025 is another example. He was trying to mix the new 52 suit with the classic Superman suit. If this suit were in comics, or maybe even in fan art, then it probably would look good. But in live action, it was 2 packs of ass. Don't even get me started on MODOK.
Surprised to see me?
Yeah.
This alone is the reason we should never have super comic booky elements in superhero movies. Comic nerds don't like to hear this, but the vast majority of the general audience have never picked up a comic in their life. These are the majority who watch these movies in theaters. Comic nerds are a minority, so you have to appeal to the widest audience possible to be profitable. These movies cost a lot of money to make. This is why superhero movies in the late 90s and early 2000s had that cool factor. They were less concerned with comic accuracy and more concerned with appealing to the widest audience possible. Hugh Jackman is pretty much the best example. Wolverine in the comics is a hairy 5'3" dude with a receding hairline. He also wears yellow spandex. It's ridiculous. Hugh Jackman on the other hand is 6'3", hairline intact, super good looking dude, and his blades came out of his... Again, nobody cares. This is because back then we were in an era where discourse surrounding superhero movies was driven by the general audience, instead of an insufferable minority of comic nerds. These nerds aren't defending artistic integrity. What they're really doing is trying to create exclusivity. They made such a big deal about Superman killing Zod in Man of Steel, just for him to kill in Superman 2025, but they don't have an issue with it. It was never about accuracy. It's about ego. These guys want to be fictional dictators who determine who and what will be accepted. But the funny thing is, all this has achieved is creating a toxic space where any fan who wants to engage in discourse is put off immediately by the gatekeeping, the double standards, and the toxicity. The studios share some of the blame for this. They pandered to nerds to try and sell more merch. The box office revenue was not enough for them, and the general audience just contributes to the box office. It's nerds that spend thousands of dollars on action figures and really stupid shit. As a capitalist, I completely understand. Get your bag, bro. But now, studios risk losing the general audience by trying to appeal to comic nerds with their movies. A lot of people are now saying that Superman was corny as hell, super cheesy, it was way too goofy and campy. Twitter has now turned on this movie. That's what you get when you appeal to a minority. There won't be any more comic book movies if you scare off this audience. Ultimately, the toxic gatekeeping which has poisoned discourse is only going to hurt this genre. These toxic fans will end up killing the very thing that they love. I guess you could say that's comic accurate. Villains are usually the authors of their own destruction. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Are comic nerds destroying superhero movies? Let me know. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. As usual, I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.